Shalom, giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael, of the tribe of Dan, of the nation of Yisrael. Brothers and sisters, this is a presentation entitled Terumah-Tetzaweh. The definition of Terumah means offering, and more so in relation to heave offering. We'll explain that further as we go along. And then there is the word Tetzaweh, which means you will command. So this is a two portions done at one particular time. So, giving due respect to Nasi Zipor, the founder, leader of the congregation Shema Yisrael, as well as Nasi Natan El Ben Zebulon, as well as Nasi Natan El Ben Lewi. Brothers and sisters, we're going to be reading in the book of Exodus, chapter 25 to Exodus chapter 30. Now, it's not trying to be funny as long as it seems, because what we're going to do is we're going to go over certain pieces concerning this kind of subject matter, nonetheless, to show the pictures, how it looked. This is involving the priesthood. This is involving the first aspect of Israel anointing. This is involving the Ark of the Covenant, the table of showbread, and so forth and so on. The Israelites, brothers and sisters, at this point had just in less now than 4 months, less than half a year, or just mid half a year, are now establishing themselves to be able to say they have some kind of independence, to have some kind of way to sit there and get things for themselves. The location where the children of Israel are at this point is in the Sinai Peninsula. Okay, now the ancient Egyptians used to go into the Sinai to dig into certain things, to get metals, to get minerals, to get gems, to get ornaments, and so forth. The Israelites obviously got the things that they used to build the tabernacle from the same kind of sources. So these are things you just want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. Okay? Let's go on to the next slide. Terumah. The word means offering, but more so of a heave offering. Heave meaning that which is lifted or pulled up. The root is the word rum. This is an ayin yod verb if you want to refer to Hebrew class number 17, meaning to exalt. Numbers chapter 18, verse 27 says this. And this is done, the heave offering of their gift, even all the wave offerings of the children of Israel. I have given them unto thee, and to thy sons and to thy daughters with thee, as they do forever. Everyone that is clean in thy house may eat thereof. Wazelaka, terumat, matanam, lakol, tenufot bene Yisrael, laka. Netatim ul baneka ul walib noteka itka lakak olam kota hor babetka yokal oto. So this is something I wanted to point out. Now, the part that you see color coded right there in the yellow, that is the aspect of terumat and heave offering. That is the definition of it. So that's why I color coded that in the red. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. the breastplate and the Ark of the Covenant. We're going to now read, brothers and sisters, in Exodus chapter 25, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. All right, let's go on. And Yah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they take for me an offering of every man, whose heart maketh him willing. You shall take my offering. And this is the offering which you shall take of them: gold, zahab, and silver, kesef, and brass, nekoshet, and blue, tekelet, and purple, argamon, and scarlet, shani, and fine linen and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and seal skins and acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod and for the breastplate. And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show thee, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all the furniture thereof. Even so shall you make it. So what we're looking at right here is the ephod on the left hand side. All right. But let me explain something. This is the actual part called the breastplate. The ephod, brothers and sisters, holds the breastplate. So that way we can gain understanding of what we're talking about. Now, what you're looking at on the right-hand side is a replica, brothers and sisters, of the Ark of the Covenant. All right. So the ancient Israelites were the ones who actually made these kind of things, and it was made for a particular aspect in regards to the priests. All right. So when it says, let them build me, brothers and sisters, a sanctuary, that I may dwell among them. Sanctuary in Hebrew is the word mikdash, and it comes from the root word quadash, which means to be holy or to be sanctified, also meaning to be separated. All right. So in regards to the aspect of being separated, it shows you that the Most High wanted the people's presence around him and his presence around the people, yet it had to be done only in sanctity. So this is something we wanted to point out for edification purposes. Let's go on. Exodus chapter 25 verse 9 and Exodus chapter 25 verse 10. So let's continue on. And they shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. Within and without shalt thou overlay it, and shall make upon it a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 feet thereof. And 2 rings shall be on the one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings on the sides of the ark, wherewith to bear the ark. The staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee. And thou shalt make an ark of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubim of gold, of beaten work thou shalt make them. And the 2 rings of the ark cover, and make 1 cherub at the one end, and 1 cherub at the other end. Of one piece with the ark cover shalt thou make the cherubim of the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubim shall spread out their wings on high, screening the ark cover with their wings. And their faces one to another toward the ark cover shall the faces of the cherubim be. And thou shalt put the ark cover above upon the ark. And in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee. And there will I meet with thee, and I will speak with thee from above the ark cover, from between the cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony, of all the things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we wanted to point out in that regard. Now, when it says a cubit is 18 inches, so if the length of it is 42 inches. The breadth is the same as how wide something is. Breadth also means width. All right. And that's 24 inches. So I just wanted to show how it looks in that particular regard as far as the measurement is concerned. The Ark of the Covenant was made in its initial stages, as we read, of acacia wood. All right. You go in the book of Joshua, you read about them being in the meadow of acacias. That is a wood that grows in a particular part of the world. And we want to show what we're talking about for edification purposes. Now, with this Ark of the Covenant that it was made, they actually, as it states in there, overlaid it with gold inside and outside of it. The staves is what you use for it, as I said, to bear the Ark. When you bear in the Ark, brothers and sisters, the staves don't move. The cherubim, brothers and sisters, their faces face each other and their wings or over the ark cover. So this right here just goes to show the Most High is being more so very, very specific about how he wants this particular thing made. All right, from its initial stage with the wood, the kind that you use, to what you put in it, what cannot be removed from it, and what you put inside of it. All right, so this is something we want to show for edification purposes. Let's go on, if we will, to the next slide. All right. Exodus chapter 25, verse 23. Now, what you're looking at there on the left-hand side is a replica, an image of how acacia wood looks like once it's been chopped up and so forth and so on. All right. Another thing to point out with the Ark of the Covenant, brothers and sisters, is that the Ark cover and the wings and the cherubim and so forth is of one piece. So they had to sit there and take that and fashion all of that together out of one particular piece of gold itself. All right, once it came down to that particular aspect. So it's a lot of work that is being put in, because they got the gold that they put on top of the ark cover, and then from that they have to sit there and make the cherubim in addition with that. So that's a lot of skill that the Most High gave to a particular person named Bezalel ben Yehuda. He is the one that actually made the Ark of the Covenant. Now, interesting is, after the Ark of the Covenant was made, the architect on a human level, Bezalel, wasn't even allowed to touch it. You understand? So that teaches us that there's a time and place for everything. There's a time and season for everything. And not to sound funny, there's some people in relationships who can see that the time is worn out and they still stay with it. See, with Bezalel, once it came down to the time of him and his relationship with the Ark of the Covenant was done, he knew to stop. Some people don't know when to stop. Some people don't know when to stop joking. Some people don't know when to stop playing. Some people don't know when to stop chilling. Some people don't know when to stop being silly. But in this particular case, even in seriousness, such as in the making the Ark of the Covenant, there's a time and place for everything. There's a time to embrace, and there's a time to refrain from embracing. And in that particular aspect, it was a time to refrain from embracing the ark in that particular case. Thank you. Now, let's go on to Exodus chapter 25, verse 23. And thou shalt make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about. And thou shalt make unto it a border of a handbreadth round about. And thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about. And thou shalt make it for 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Close by the border shall the rings be, for places for the staves to bear the table. And thou shalt make the staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes thereof, and the pans thereof, and the jars thereof, and the bowls thereof, wherewith to pour out of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table showbread before me daily. Now, what we're looking at right here is a replica of what is referred to as the table of showbread, and everything on that is in regards to gold. Now, there is said to be 12 loaves of bread. Obviously, could be said for the representation of the 12 tribes of Israel. But this table of showbread, brothers and sisters, I don't want to use the terminology symbolism, but what it does show in Israel is a particular culture. You see how we say as human beings, the eyes of God and the hands of God and the feet of God. What we're saying is we're giving anthropomorphic aspects to our finite human mind to the Most High, because we have eyes that we see and hands and a mouth and so forth and so on. We say to the limit that our knowledge shows by saying the mouth of God or the hands of God or so forth, because that's as far as we can go in speaking about as the aspect of humans. So one of the things we want to point out, brothers and sisters, also in this particular case, is that you can see the staves that are upon it that is made, like the Ark of the Covenant, is made to sit there and bear with. So the gold, brothers and sisters, it being overlaid upon it was to show you that it was of a certain quality. And when you read, for instance, earlier, you read about the pure gold. Pure gold in Hebrew is said as Zahab Tahor. The word tahor, I want to print this out, okay? Means pure, means clean, all right? A lot of times, and I say this in no disrespect intended, but a lot of the gold that you see people wearing today is not pure gold. It's been tainted, other minerals and so forth added to it, extracted from it. But when you're dealing with something in regards to the Most High, you can't sit there and give your 2 cents to it. All right, you can't sit there and say, well, I want to just do this like that and so forth, because as you will read, we will see that it says distinctly as I've shown you in the mount. All right, so don't do your own thing and add your opinion to the work of the Most High. Okay, so this is something in that particular regard for edification purposes. The next thing, brothers and sisters, we want to point out going on, let's go on to the next slide, all right? Okay, Exodus 23 and Leviticus chapter 24, verse 5 through 9. Let's read that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 24, verses 5 to verse 9. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. And thou shalt take fine flour and bake 12 cakes thereof. 2/10 of an ephah shall be in one cake. And thou shalt set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row, upon a pure table before Yah. And thou shalt put pure frankincense with each row, that it may be to the bread for a memorial part, even an offering made by fire unto Yah. Every Shabbat day he shall set it in order before Yah continually. It is from the children of Israel an everlasting covenant, and it shall be for Aaron and for his sons. And they shall eat it in a holy place, for it is most holy unto him, of offerings of Yah made by fire, a perpetual dew. So the table of showbread that we just read of in Leviticus 24, it goes to show you that it's set there and renewed every Shabbat. Now, this doesn't mean that you can sit there and make just anything on the Shabbat in regards to food by kindling the flame in your own self. No, this right here is only in regards with the priesthood in that regard. The next thing, brothers and sisters, to point out is if you look at the picture, right, on the left-hand side, Exodus chapter 25, verse 23, this is an image of how the acacia tree looks. And as you can see where it grows. All right, so this is something we just wanted to point out for edification purposes in that particular regard. All right, now what you're looking at, brothers and sisters, on the right-hand side is the golden areas, is the tropical and subtropical areas where this particular type of wood grows. And as you can see, the majority of it being in the vicinity, if you're looking at where the continent of Africa is at, also where Saudi Arabia is at, that right there is where the children of Israel was at. So when you read, for instance, in the book of Joshua about the matter of acacias, it's not too hard to figure out what we're talking about for a reason and purposes. I want to take time out now, brothers and sisters, in regards to the land of Israel and the location of it. It was not, like some unfortunately say, sub-Saharan Africa. All right. Now, for instance, when you go into where Egypt is of today, it says in the book of the scriptures, it says that no will come to a devastation. No, brothers and sisters, is not saying the word no, but no in ancient Egypt is what the Egyptians called Waset, what the Greeks later on called Thebes. So when it says that no will come to desolation, and you can see where Thebes of today is in desolation. It's a big graveyard, if you will. The ancient land of Egypt, for the majority of the part, is basically desert, a big graveyard. So this is something, or cemetery, if you will. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we wanted to point out for edification purposes in that particular regard. Now, the place that was called Libya of today is where the people that lived there called the Libu. They lived there, and they had their own, if you want to use the terminology, culture, civilization, and so forth and so on. All right. Before the Ptolemies ran into northern Africa, and before the Romans ran into northern Africa, and before the Sassanid dynasty of the Arabs and the Turkish and the Ottomans and so forth ran into all of those different parts, such as Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Oman, and so forth and so on, the ancient Israelites, as well as the other nations who happen to be Hamites, all being black, all lived in the area of northern Africa and Western Asia. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we want to point out for edification purposes in that particular regard. The next thing, brothers and sisters, to point out is that many people are asking about the location of the land of Israel, saying that there were no lions there. How do you have a lion in the time of Samson and so forth and so on? Obviously, brothers and sisters, they imported animals. That's not to sit there and be denied. For instance, when you read in the book of Genesis, you read about the gold in the land of Cush, about that gold being good. So when you see gold in other parts, it doesn't mean that they didn't have it. It doesn't mean that they didn't do exchange. All right. For instance, you read about the two she-bears in the time of Elisha, the prophet, but the children of Israel didn't live in a vicinity where there would be bears in that particular area. You understand? But let's remember that this being after Solomon's era. So Solomon having a fleet going all the way around the Horn of Africa, then Southern Africa, all the way up as far as Tarshish and other countries doing business and trade. Solomon had what today will be called a zoo in many cases. So it's not too hard to figure out how you would get certain animals that's not indigenous to the land of Yisrael, why you see them written about in the scriptures. All right. So this is something we want to point out for reason and purposes. The land of Israel is not across the Atlantic in South America. The land of Israel is not south of the equator in some part of Africa. It is in the land that is adjacent to the Sinai. Okay. So let's go, if you will, brothers and sisters, and continue to read on. Exodus chapter 25, verse 31. And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work shall the candlestick be made, even its base and its shaft, its cups, its knops, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. And there shall be 6 branches going out of the sides thereof, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side thereof, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side thereof. 3 cups. 3 cups. We are in Exodus chapter 25, verse 33. 3 cups made like almond blossoms in one branch, a knop and a flower, and 3 cups made like almond blossoms in the other branch, a knop and a flower. So for the 6 branches going out of the candlestick, and in the candlestick 4 cups made like almond blossoms, the knops thereof and the flowers thereof, and a knop under 2 branches of one piece with it, and a knop under 2 branches of one piece with it, and a knop under 2 branches of one piece with it, for the 6 branches going out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of one piece with it, the whole of it of beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the lamps thereof 7, and they shall light the lamps thereof to give light over against it, and the tongues thereof and the stuffed dishes thereof shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of a pure gold shall it be made with all these vessels. And see that thou make them after their pattern, which is being shown to thee in the mount. So we want to emphasize in the last particular verse, when it says, according to the pattern shown to you in the mount, you don't freestyle this particular thing. You don't sit there and try to sit there and add your spin to this. All right, this is being told to be made a specific way for a specific purpose. Okay, let's show an image of what we're speaking of. Okay, the menorah was one piece of gold beaten into a particular shape. Exodus chapter 25, verse 31. Now, I want to emphasize the only accurate part that I can sit there and pull up on the line about this is the fact that it has 3 branches going out to the left side, 3 branches going out to the right side. All right, as far as the knops and the cups and the flowers, I wasn't able to sit there and show that particular thing in this particular aspect. But I just want to emphasize how the closest thing that we can see that as how it would look. All right, now Jewish people do not sit there and have most of the menorah looking like this because their argument is they don't want it to duplicate an original one. So what they'll do is they'll have a menorah with 4 branches going out on the left side and 4 branches going out on the right side for whatever reason. So the menorah, as you see, was of one beaten work, and it was fashioned out of one piece of gold, of pure gold, zahab tahor again. All right. So out of that one particular thing, the Israelites, in this particular case, Bezalel ben Yehuda, he was the one who actually fashioned how this menorah was to sit there and how it was to look. Of one piece of gold, they fashioned the whole entire thing out according to the pattern that was shown. As you'll read later on in 2 weeks or so, obviously Moshe himself actually inspected the work that the people were doing and how the things were to sit there and look. All right, so let's go, if we will, into Numbers chapter 8, verse 1. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about for edification purposes. Numbers, the 8th chapter, very first verse. And it says this: And Yah spoke unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto Aaron, and say unto him, When thou lightest the lamps, the 7 lamps shall give light in front of the candlestick. And Aaron did so. He lighted the lamps thereof, so as to give light in the front of the candlestick, as Yah commanded Moses. And this was the work of the candlestick, beaten work of gold unto the base thereof, and unto the flowers thereof. It was beaten work according to the pattern which Yah had shown Moshe, so he made the candlestick. All right. So when it says that the candlestick was made according to the pattern that the Most High showed unto Moshe, we read what that pattern looked like inside of the book of Exodus, chapter 25. All right. So this is something we want to talk about for edification purposes. Brothers and sisters, we read, for instance, in Exodus chapter 20, right, about the aspect of the commandments being given. Then you read about Exodus chapter 21, about how to deal with your neighbor, how to deal with your brethren. You understand how to deal with your parents, how to deal even with your children, how to deal with your spouse, how to deal in Yisrael having a servant system. You understand what I'm saying? For instance, in Exodus 21, you don't separate the servant from his family in the house of Yisrael. You understand? If he distinctly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, so there's nothing wrong. Shema Yisrael. There's nothing wrong with a man saying that he loves his wife. All right. So there's some who may feel, well, there's no point in having to say that. That's your problem and your prerogative. But if a man loves his lady, as we can see in the book of Exodus 21, there's nothing wrong with him saying such. And this is in the Torah. Okay, so let that be noted for edification purposes. The next thing, brothers and sisters, to point out, if we will, concerning the menorah and all of these other things like the Ark of the Covenant and the table of showbread, this was given after the code of law in regards to how people deal with people. You understand? So before you say that we're going to make something sanctified and dedicated to the Most High, we have laws reading from Exodus 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24 about how to get your right heart before the Most High. And then When you sit there and can master that, then we could talk about the Ark of the Covenant, the menorah, table of showbread, the priest's garments, the ephod. You don't talk about the ephod, the priest's garments, the table of showbread, the altar of incense, the altar of burnt offerings, the Ark of the Covenant. You don't go there when you don't understand certain things in the book of Exodus, such as you're not supposed to hit your parents, such as you're not supposed to sit there and defraud with your neighbor. You're not supposed to sit there and be a whoremonger in the house of Israel. You're not supposed to sit there and be a whore within the house of Israel. So all of those things was covered in a portion called Mishpatim. Before we get to the offering, Terumah, you got to understand how the Most High wants your character, your ruach, your gisha, your attitude and your spirit to be before you can sit there and say we're going to offer up something from this being pure gold. Because if your heart is not right, Yah does not want it. It tells you here about the free will heart that we're going to read into as we go along in a portion, Tetzaweh. But if your spirit is on some greediness, if your spirit is not about taking care of the neighbor as yourself, loving your neighbor as yourself. For instance, it tells you in Exodus prior to this portion that you don't sit there and take a man's garments of pledge. So if he has to sit there and be in debt to you, you don't sit there and take his clothing until he can pay it back, because it tells you wherein shall he sleep. So if you don't love your neighbor and considering how your neighbor is supposed to be dealt with, you can't talk about the Ark of the Covenant. There's no point, perhaps, in talking about the Ark of the Covenant and the rituals and the ceremonies and the table of showbread and the incense that was to be lit and the aspect of the menorah and the knops and the loops and the so forth and so on. And as we will read later on with the boards and the curtains of the tabernacle, no, the Most High said, make this that I may dwell among them. But before you make that, let's understand there's certain laws, such as what the brother Malachi, Chief Malachi, went over last time in a portion called Mishpatim. You understand? There's judgments, there's ordinances, such as Mishpatim, and then after that, then you get your offerings. You don't come with the offering first and then sit there and say, see this? And that's the difference in Torah between Torah and Christianity. Because in Christianity, you come with your offering first, and then your heart can sit there and just be any old way. No, with the Most High, it tells you to sit there and get your heart right, and then you can sit there and come and make the offering. Don't come with the offering with your heart not being correct first. Work on your character before you work on a piece of gold. So this is something we want to point out for a reason and purposes. Okay, let's go on, if we will, to the next slide. All right. Hebrew of Exodus chapter 25, 31 and 25, 34. Right? And thou shalt make a candlestick of pure gold, of beaten work. Thou shalt make the candlestick be made, even its base and its shaft, its cups, its knops, and its flowers shall be of one piece with it. And in the candlestick 4 cups made like almond blossoms, the knops thereof and the flowers thereof. The Hebrew says the following: Wa asita, and thou shalt make menorat, candlestick of zahab tahor, pure gold, mikshe ta'ase ham norah, of beaten work. Thou shalt make the menorah from the root word ner, which means candle, but adding the prefix of the mem, changing it a thing of light. That is to say, candlestick. Ye reha, wakwana, gebi eha, kaf toreha, uf raheha, memenahihu. So this is saying that, brothers and sisters, in regards to its base and its shaft, all right? It's cups. That's what I wanted to focus on. Gebi eha, the word gebi in regards to the aspect of the word cups. And the candlestick, 4 cups made like almond blossoms. Ub Norah, arba'a gebi'im, gebi'ah. In this regard, brothers and sisters, in regards to the word cup. So obviously, most Israelites speaking about cups speak about the aspect of the word kos, all right, in Hebrew. But obviously, this particular one is different. Meku dashim, kaf toreha, uf rakeha. Now, if you remember the Hebrew portion we did about the feminine aspect, about showing the nouns in possession, all right, you can begin to see why you begin to see a hay at the end of certain things with a quamance underneath it. All right. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we want to point out for edification purposes in that particular regard. Let's go on to the next slide. Exodus chapter 26, verse 1. Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle of 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, with cherubim, the work of the skillful workman, shalt thou make them. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of each and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains have one measure. 5 curtains shall be coupled together one to another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. And thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of one curtain that is outmost in the first set. And likewise shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is outmost in the second set. 50 loops shalt thou make in the one curtain, and 50 loops shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the second set. The loops shall be opposite one to another. And thou shalt make 50 clasps of gold, and couple the curtains one to another with the clasps, that the tabernacle may be one whole. And thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains shalt thou make them. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains shall have one measure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and shall double over the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tent. And thou shalt make 50 loops on the edge of the one curtain that the outmost of the first set, and 50 loops upon the edge of the curtain which is outmost in the second set. And thou shalt make 50 clasps of brass, and put the clasps into the loops, and couple the tent together that it may be one. And as for the overhanging part that remaineth of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remaineth over shall hang over the back of the tabernacle, and the cubit on the one side and a cubit on the other side of that which remaineth over the length of the curtains of the tent shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and on that side to cover it. And thou shalt make a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering of seal skins above. So let's understand, brothers and sisters, what we're dealing with in this particular regard as far as the curtains are concerned. Exodus chapter 26 from verse 1 to verse 6 is dealing with one particular set and aspect of curtains. Then when you go to Exodus chapter 26 verse 7, it says this: and thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. All right. One goes over the tabernacle, 11 curtains shalt thou make them. And the length of these curtains shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. So, brothers and sisters, what we're dealing with in this particular regard is there are 2 different sets of curtains that are being discussed in this particular case. One being over and one being beside the actual tabernacle itself. So I just want that to be shown for edification purposes and stated for edification purposes. Okay. Now it's generally understood that the word for cubit, or the word cubit itself, means 18 inches. So if it is 18 inches, what we're dealing with and what we're discussing, brothers and sisters, the length being 42 feet, the breadth being 6 feet. All right, breadth and width, as stated, is the same thing. So I hope that's understood for reason and purposes from Exodus chapter 26, from verse 1 to verse 14. When you get to verse 7, that's talking about a different set of curtains that go over the tent. All right, so let's go on to the next slide. Okay, Exodus chapter 26, verse 15 to verse 30. I tried to sit there and get the picture as best as I could as far as the curtain goes and so forth and so on. You might see other pictures and everything, but where the pin is highlighted in that part, it shows you where the tabernacle was and so forth in that regard. Let's go and read Exodus chapter 26, verse 15 to verse 30. And it says this: And thou shalt make the boards up for the tabernacle of acacia wood standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each board. 2 tenons shall there be in each board, joined one to another. Thus thou shalt make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the boards of the tabernacle 20 boards for the south side, southward. And thou shalt make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for its 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, 20 boards. So you got 20 on the south side of it, 20 on the north side of it. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. And for the hinder part of the tabernacle, westward, thou shalt make 6 boards. So you got 6 on the west, 20 on the north, and 20 on the south. All right, goes on to say this. And for the hinder part of the tabernacle westward, thou shalt make as stated 6 boards. And 2 boards shalt thou make for the corners of the tabernacle in the hinder part, and they shall be double beneath. And in like manner, they shall be complete into the top thereof unto the first ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. Thus there shall be 8 boards in their sockets of silver, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And thou shalt make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the boards of the one side on the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the hinder part westward. In the middle bar, in the midst of the boards, shall pass through from end to end. And thou shalt overlay the boards with gold and make their rings of gold for holders for the bars. And thou shalt overlay the bars with gold. And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion which thou shalt be shown there, according to the fashion thereof, which has been shown thee in the mount. So, once again, is stating that there's a particular style that is to be shown, brothers and sisters, that will be shown, that was shown to Moshe in the mount. All right. So once again, it's not a freestyle kind of thing as far as how the thing should sit there and be made and so forth. Okay. So the boards in Hebrew is called kusharim. The length is 15 feet, the breadth 2 feet, southern part 20 boards, northern part 20 boards, western part 6 boards. The eastern part, brothers and sisters, there were no boards there. All right, in that particular aspect. So I just want that to been shown for a reason and purposes. With the pictures, can be listened to later, and so forth. Now, getting back into this particular portion right here, I wanted to emphasize on something. The bars, the boards, and the things in the aspect of the tabernacle, like the Ark of the Covenant and the menorah, was made of gold. All right. So when the children of Israel moved about, they was able to sit there and have certain things to be done. Okay. Let's go on, if you will, to the next slide. Exodus chapter 26, verse 31 to verse 37. And it says this: And thou shalt make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, with cherubim, the work of the skillful workman, shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, their hooks being of gold, upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil, under the claps, and shall bring in thither within the veil, the ark of the testimony, that is to say, the ark of the covenant. All right. And the veil shall divide between you and the holy place and the most holy. So you had it to where you had the most holy place, or the Kwadosh Kodashim, the holy place, the Kwadosh place, and then you had where the people stood in many cases, or that's to say the common Levite or priest, should I say, stood in many cases in that particular aspect. All right, let's go on, if we will, into verse 34. And thou shalt put the ark cover upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. So the ark of the covenant that we reading of earlier in chapter 25 was in the most holy place. All right. And thou shalt set the table without the veil and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle toward the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. So on the south side of it, brothers and sisters, you had the table, and on the north side shall the table on the, sorry, let me read that verse over in 35. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, meaning outside of the veil, all right? And a candlestick over against the table on the south side of the tabernacle southward. So the south of it was where the menorah, the candlestick was. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. The table that is talking about is the table of showbread. All right. So we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about for edification purposes. Let's go on, if we will. And it says this. And thou shalt make a screen for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the weaver in colors. And thou shalt make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and thou shalt cast 5 sockets of silver for them. So, brothers and sisters, the point that I want to emphasize, and this is the veil and the furnishings of the tabernacle. There was an order to how this thing went. You understand? It just wasn't haphazardly done, and so forth and so on. You had the tabernacle where the people would bring up offerings. Then within it, you had the holy place, and then you had the most holy place. All right. So this is something we want to point out. Now, when you see right here on the left-hand side, it shows about the tribes of Yisrael. All right. You had Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, Reuben, Simeon, and Gad, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Now, the parts that you see there, such as Ephraim, Reuben, Judah, and Dan, that are highlighted, are right there in the red. That right there was where the camp of Judah, the camp of Dan, the camp of Ephraim, the camp of Reuben. All right, all the 12 tribes of Israel being represented. Now, in the aspect where the Levites was at, you had it to where Moses, Aaron, and his sons, Aaron having 4 sons at this time, you had the people of Merari, Gershom, and Kohat. And within that center there was the tent of meeting. All right, so this is how the tribes moved. It also was not done just haphazard. They moved in a certain particular way and how this particular thing went. Now, when you read, for instance, about the situation with Datan and Abiram, who were of the tribe of Reuben, in the book of Numbers, chapter 16, if you look very carefully on the left-hand side of this, you see where Kohath is at. The Kohathites teamed up, such as Moses' cousin, Korah, actually teamed up, you may say, with the Reubenites, such as Datan and Abiram, because the tent was close to each other, so they was able to be around each other. All right, so this is just something to point out in that particular regard. It didn't just go way yonder to where Asher was at for static or beef or drama purposes. The drama started for Moses' family, the Kohathites, in cahoots with the Reubenites there. All right, so that's just something I wanted to show as far as that goes in that particular regard to that particular case. Now, what you're looking at right there on the right-hand side, you had the Ark of the Covenant, the inner veil, the altar of incense, which you didn't get to yet, the golden lampstand, the pillars, the lever, the door, that means the door into where you go into where the most holy place is at. Then you had the table of bread, which is the table of showbread, the coverings of coverings or curtains, and a bronze altar for burnt offerings. So I just wanted to show how that looked in that particular regard. All right, in this particular case. So now let's go to Exodus chapter 20, if we will. All right. Exodus chapter 20, we're going to start, brothers and sisters, in verse 8. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is a Sabbath unto the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any manner of work. Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days Yah made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested on the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. So the children of Israel in verse 10 was told to keep the Sabbath in all their gates. Brothers and sisters, just because we see gates doesn't mean that it's an actual gate like fence that has metal and steel. All right. So that he says he stands at the gate of the city. So when it talks about the aspect, brothers and sisters, of gates, it's talking about the aspect of entrances. So this is something I wanted to point out in that particular regard, in that particular case. All right. So let's go on, if we will, back to, I want this picture, hopefully people can see it, and so forth and so on. All right. Let's go on, if we will, brothers and sisters, to the next slide. Notes concerning the tabernacle. The sanctuary was made by the Israelites, our ancestors. It was a portable tent consisting of many curtains that were looped together by a hook and held together by cords. All right. It was upheld by boards of wood, acacia kind. We already shown how the acacia wood looks earlier in this presentation. The tabernacle was kept in the center of the encampment of the Israelites. The tabernacle in Hebrew is called a mishkan, meaning dwelling, from the root word shakan, which means to dwell. As been pointed out in the Hebrew classes consistently, you had it to where the word, brothers and sisters, shakan means to dwell, mishkan means dwelling. All right, by adding the prefix of the mem, you change the verb to dwell into a dwelling. So the mem prefix in Hebrew changes a verb to a noun. Within the tabernacle was the Ark of the Covenant, and that was in the Holy of Holies, where the high priest would go into during the time of Yom Kippur. The altar was used for sacrifices, and that was placed in the outer court. In front of the Holy of Holies was the altar of incense. The table of showbread was in the northern part. Let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, to the book of Joshua, chapter 18, verse 1, so we can gain something for edification purposes. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled themselves together at Shiloh and set up the tent of meeting there, and the land was subdued before them. And there remained among the children of Israel 7 tribes which had not yet received their inheritance. So the tabernacle that we see here, brothers and sisters, that they were building in the book of Exodus, was set up in Shiloh. Shiloh later on became as known as part of the land of Ephraim. All right. So when Solomon's temple was built some centuries after the situation of Joshua, you had it to where the temple that you see of being built in the book of Kings, chapter 6, chapter 7, and chapter 8. You understand? And in chapter 9, as we went over before regarding the aspect of who built the temple that the Most High spoke to King David about in the book of 2 Samuel 7, was built by Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 8. All right. So he was the one that built the temple, and the tabernacle was moved within it, and it took the place of the tabernacle because that is the place where the Most High caused his name to dwell. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. The house of Israel, unfortunately, though themselves were being wicked, if we see the laws of Yah and how the Most High established Israel, there was seder. There was order. It was not just haphazard. There was structure. Hebrew has structure. The reason why many of our houses, and I don't mean to sound like a sad person, is because of a lack of structure. You see what happens later on. You see? So there are certain things in wisdom in Torah that we can gain, know, and understand for edification purposes, that when you see the structure that the Most High had and how the Most High said exactly the way I shown you, don't go outside of that. A lot of marriages fail because a lot of us go outside of the pattern that the Most High had established. A lot of raising of the children goes awry because it goes outside of the pattern that the Most High established. There is no wisdom nor understanding against Yah. So the way the Most High established something, it wasn't by accident. So this European / American society is anti the ways of the Most High. It's against the ways of the Most High. You understand? So, for instance, they will have you work 7 days a week if they could. Some jobs actually have that mandatory. They're not thinking about a day of rest that you and your servant may rest as well as thou. Nope, doesn't matter to them. You understand? Another thing that this shows in the book of Exodus, brothers and sisters, that it shows you the people had to put work in order for things to get done. See, Israel is not a religious thing. You understand? So it's not like, oh, we're just going to wait for something from the sky. No, it's telling you to put your hands to this task. Offer something up, a heave offering, your terumah, the things that you're going to sit there and bring of your heart for the dedication of the work for the Most High, for yourself. You understand the things that you put in. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about as far as the quality aspect goes in this particular case. Brothers and sisters, when you get into, like, when you hear our Chief Yashar talk about the aspect of bringing in donations and obligations and so forth and so on, when we do these teachings, as he points out, we don't get paid. When this lesson, class, so forth is done, I don't get nothing put into my bank account from Shema. It doesn't happen like that. When we do the Hebrew classes, we do it of a free will heart. It's something that you have to want to do. And you can tell when a person does something, when they want to do it and when they don't want to do it, because they won't do it. You understand? So this is something to be pointed out for edification purposes. When the Most High has given you the ability to do something, you do it. When you don't do the work of the Most High, it does not go well for you. Be it raising your family a certain way, be it taking responsibility a certain way, be it handling your business a certain way, and so forth and so on. It talks about the man that handles his business in the book of Proverbs. It talks about the aspect of the man who gets up and goes to work at the sunrise or in the morning in the Psalms 104. So it talks about the aspect of things getting done. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. The 6 days laboring to do all work, your work is not an option. That is a commandment. Just as much as it is a commandment to rest and not work on the Shabbat, so is it a commandment that you sit there and get things done the other 6 days. I want to emphasize on that. Just as much as it is a commandment to do no work on the Shabbat, so is it important and as much of a commandment that 6 days are used to get things done and to get works accomplished. Israelites have been saying for years, the Israelites don't have nothing. We don't do nothing. The men in Israel ain't doing that. When you only meet on the day that you're commanded to not work, things will not get done. I want to type that in for a reason and purposes. When you only meet on the day you are told to do no work, things will not get done. Brothers and sisters, yes, we convocate in holiness on the Shabbat. But if the Shabbat, the day that you're told to do no manner of work, is the only time you meet, don't expect things to get done. That's just obvious. That's just keeping it honest. That's just keeping it 100, as some may say. If you only meet on the day that you're told to not do any work, that is a problem. And you can see the problem going through year in and year out, in many cases in Israel. You understand? The person who has the slave mentality, well, we just came from out of being slaves in Egypt and we still got to do this. Yes, you still got to sit there and get the work done. You know, there are some men, and I don't mean to sound racial, you know, there's some black men out there who don't do nothing in their house because they worked under the white man all day. Keeping it. Now, I've met bros like that. I ain't got to sit there and fix this. I'll pay the bills because I already worked. That's why the Apocrypha says, marry your daughter, meaning cause her to be married, but give her to a man of understanding. Because there are some people who, just because they did servile work, They don't want to do any manner of work in their house, in their home. There are people who are like that. There are people who will sit down, and if the wife or the Isha has to sit there and go to work, they will sit down there, will not make themselves a sandwich, and just say, I'm going to wait for her to come in and cook. That is wicked as who knows what. Jacob was a cook. You understand? Moshe knew how to cook. The priest that you read of in the book of the law, reading about their cooking in Pesach, no offense to sisters, those were not sisters that took the lamb offering and had it done. No, all of the cooks that came out of the priests of the sons of Aaron were just that, the sons of Aaron. You understand? This is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Of course, when it says B'nai Aharon, it also talks about the children of Aaron. But this is something we want to point out for reason and purposes. The Anashim, the men, are the ones who sat there and did that work. See, unfortunately, what happens in many cases, when I was young in Israel, and it's not to knock the sisters, also including my mommy, may she rest in peace, who was part of the sisterhood committee that actually did the cooking on Pesach, that actually did the aspect of making the bread once it came down, when they was doing the wave loaves on the Feast of the Feast of Tabernacles and the Feast of Weeks, and so forth and so on. But one of the things we want to point out, Yisrael, is this. The men were the ones who actually had the lamb at a certain time, watched the lamb until a certain time, slew the lamb at a particular certain time. It wasn't like men do or have done in Israel. And I say this in no disrespect. Well, we bought it, the sisters can cook it. No, it's the way that you see going on here, even in this congregation in Shema Israel, when the men go and get it, and then the men are the same ones who clean it out, season it, cook it, get the grill together, get the things done. All the people doing that, I've seen it with my two eyes around the Pesach of last year in 2017. It was men like Brother Prince Nathaniel Ben Zebulun. He was the one who actually was doing that. Him, and I'm going to give a shout out to another brother named Uriah from Shema Yisrael. Those were the ones who was the ones that was actually doing the physical working in that particular regard. When they had the cleanup committee, it was the men that actually came through with that. When you read about the men or the people that cleaned the temple in the time of Hezekiah, were all people who was born with the XY chromosome. That is to say, males. They did not in Israel have a sister climb the ladder to sit there and clean the corners of the ceiling. It was men, anashim. Not to be confused with people, but we want to just emphasize the gender. It was the men that put that work together. Now, we know good and well, Israel, that with the free heart that the people gave, it was men and women in the book of Numbers 31. You understand what I'm saying? But the people that did the work were the men. Brothers and sisters, and I'll say this and not being sexist, a woman can get unclean at any particular time, even unknown to herself. There were women who, being in this matriarchal society, if you want to call it that, said, I could do everything like a man. She wanted to become a firefighter just like a man. She wanted to sit there and take the warehouse jobs just like a man. And one lady, actually, not to be disrespectful, must have forgot her gender, because her uncleanness came and she was reminded, oh yeah, this is who I am. You can't do, sister, everything like a man can do. A man cannot do everything like a woman can do. You understand? There are cases of sons, little boys, sons that have been chastened by their mother and they still hug their mother afterward. I being one of those kind. Do you understand? So this is something that we want to point out for edification purposes. So, brothers and sisters, once it comes down to many cases, the children, in many regards, yearn toward their female parent. In most cases, the male parent is the one out getting things done. It wasn't a thing of day in and day out of just chilling. Day in and day out, just chilling. Day in and day out, just chilling. Because it talks about that in the book of Proverbs. You understand? Where it says a little sleep, a little slumber, so shall your want come as an armed man. When it says your want, meaning your lack. Your desire that you're going to want for things is going to come as an armed man because you didn't put the work into it. When Israel, taking it back into the portion, was dealing with this kind of stuff, they wasn't running around just like a ragtag group of people with no structure. Hebrew has structure. The tabernacle has structure. This is for the silver. This is for the brass. This is the gold. This is the boards. These are the curtains. This is the menorah. The 3 branches, not 4, going out. 3 branches, not 4, going out. There is an order to things. Let's go on, brothers and sisters. We are in the book of Exodus, chapter 27, verse 1. And thou shalt make the altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be 4 square, and the height thereof shall be 3 cubits. And thou shalt make the horns of it upon the 4 corners thereof. The horns thereof shall be of one piece with it, and thou shalt overlay it with brass. And thou shalt put its pots, and thou shalt make its pots to take away its ashes, and its shovels, and its basins, and its flesh hooks, and its fire pans. All the vessel thereof shall be made of brass. And thou shalt make for it a grating of network of brass, and upon the net shalt thou make 4 brazen rings in the 4 corners thereof. And thou shalt put it under the ledge round the altar beneath. And it says that the net may reach halfway into the altar. And thou shalt make staves for the altar, staves of acacia wood, and overlay them with brass. And the staves thereof shall be into the rings, and the staves shall be upon the 2 rings of the altar in bearing it. Hollow with planks shalt thou make it, as it hath been shown thee in the mount, so shall they make it. So once again, we're speaking about the aspect of it being shown to you and how this thing was to be done. All right. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Okay. The altar of burnt offering. On this went the offerings we see spoken of in Leviticus 6. It's of a square rabua shape. 5 cubits equals 90 inches. The breadth is the same as 90 inches, and the height of 3 cubits, which is 54 inches. This is a replica of the aspect of the altar of burnt offering. So we begin to see what we're talking about for edification purposes. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 6, verse 5. All right. And I'm reading out of the Masoretic Tanakh text. We are in Leviticus chapter 6, verse 5, and it says this. All right. And the fire upon the altar shall be kept burning thereby. It shall not go out. And the priest shall kindle wood on it every morning. And he shall lay the burnt offering and order upon it, and shall make smoke thereon the fat of the peace offerings. So this right here, this altar of burnt offering is not made of gold. It's made of brass. All right. You really wouldn't be cooking things on gold in that particular regard. All right. So what you're looking at inside of that is the grating that is talking about that it reached halfway up into it. Then, you speak about its pots and the things that you use to take up the ashes of it. So everything was made in detail. Everything, it was not left up to perchance. It reminds me in a way of like the kind of job that I do, because when we go and take a thing in regards to the fire department test that is administered from the fire department, you got to list each and every single step. You cannot skip anything. You skip anything, you fail. So understanding that kind of thing and reading this kind of laws right here, everything is stated in detail. So you can't miss anything out because you already got the blueprint. Just the same, when you take the test in regards to the fire department thing, you can't miss anything because you already got the study material, because it was already shown Moshe and them out. In this regard, to jobs aspect, you already got the manual to read beforehand. It's called paying attention. If you pay attention, you can't mess up. This is why by the time a child is 3-4 years old, they already know which way to go into the bathroom. You can't mess up because you've been trained and you paid attention. Everything from a child using the bathroom to an adult taking a test for a job to the children of Yisrael making these ornaments that you see for the tabernacle right here. If you already got the blueprint, you already got the order given to you, you can't mess up unless you just have carelessness. So these are things we want to point out for reason and purposes. All right. Let's go on, if we will. We are in the book of Exodus, chapter 27, verse 9. And thou shalt make the court of the tabernacle for the south side southward. There shall be hangings for the court of fine twined linen, 100 cubits long for one side, and the pillars thereof shall be 20, and their sockets 20 of brass. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise, for the north side, the length thereof shall be hangings 100 cubits long, and the pillars thereof 20, and their sockets 20 of brass. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side shall be hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, and their sockets 10. And the breadth of the court on the east side, eastward, shall be 50 cubits. The hangings for the one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the other side shall be hangings of 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the gate of the court shall be a screen of 20 cubits of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen, the work of the weaver in colors, their pillars 4, and their sockets 4. All the pillars of the court round about shall be filleted with silver, and their hooks of silver, and their sockets of brass. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the breadth 50 cubits everywhere, and the height 5 cubits. Of fine twined linen in their sockets of brass. All the instruments of the tabernacle, and all their service, and all the service thereof, and all the pins thereof, and all the pins of the court shall be of brass. So, brothers and sisters, this just goes to show you how the things was to actually look into a certain regard. The north side and the south side, 100 cubits, which equals 150 feet. The breadth, 50 cubits, 75 feet. The height, 5 cubits, which is 7.5 feet. So this right here, what we're just looking at right here, is the Ark of the Covenant. This is a replica of it, like in the diagram. Altar of incense, the table of showbread, the golden lampstand is the menorah. Then you had the bronze laver, which we didn't get to yet. Then you had the altar of burnt offerings. So you got the north and the south. If you remember earlier, we went over the aspect of the north and the south of the particular tabernacle. So when you read in this particular regard about the court of the tabernacle, it's showing the outside part of it and how it looked. All right. So this is just what we want to show for edification purposes. Brothers and sisters, that ends the particular portion in regards called Terumah. So we got some Hebrew out of it. We got some aspects of some kind of pictures out of it so we can see in regards to for ourselves. And one of the moral things that I would like to sit there and point out, not to be redundant, concerning this kind of subject matter, brothers and sisters, is this. The people came together and put their work in. Brothers and sisters, there are people who are, and I don't want to use the word complaining, but there are people saying, wow, that movie Black Panther made over $600 or so million. Why couldn't black people come together for that? Don't do that. All you got to do is take what is good. You've seen what was already put into it and use it, that same spirit, for something else. That's called intelligence. Last month in February is what they refer to as Black History Month. The book that I wrote that has a lot of Black history, I used that time to sit there and get the information out to the people easier by lowering the price of the book. It's called intelligence. It's called, in certain cases, marketing, if you will. So now when the people's spirit has already been set into a certain place and into a certain aspect and into a certain thing, brothers and sisters, we can begin to see how the people's spirit can be, only because, as stated earlier, when you read about laws about how to deal with your children, how to deal with your parents, how you deal with a servant, how you deal with animals, how you sit there and deal one with another, how do you deal with a thief, how do you deal with the witch, how do you deal with an adulterer, and all these kind of things that you see in Mishpatim. Then you get those kind of moral codes done. Then you can start to sit there and see the actual physical aspect of it. So a lot of times people in the conscious community try to quote unquote attack Israelites by saying, well, where's your temple? Or where is this? And then you got people deeming themselves as messianics who ask us as Old Testament based Israelites, where's your offerings? We got to get back to Mishpatim. Before you start talking about the altar of incense, did you sit there and know that when you take a woman's virginity, you're supposed to marry her? What about that? Before you start asking me where my lamb is at, before you start asking me about the bullocks and goats, when was the last time, brothers and sisters, did you sit there and confess if you lied to your brother or sister? Did you steal something? And did you do what Exodus says and replace it? When somebody lets you hold something and you know that you used it incorrectly, do you do what Exodus 22 says? Or do you try to not deal with Mishpatim's laws and then sit there and talk about the offering of the goat? No, no, no. We got to talk about rending your heart and not your garments. All right? Okay. Somebody said the altar of continual burnt offering is not in Leviticus 6:5, but verse 13. Okay, let's read that part. Maybe I had the wrong verse. Told out for that. Let's go to Leviticus 6:13 so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. And it says this. And Yah spoke unto Moshe, saying, this is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they shall offer unto Yah in the day when he is anointed. The 10th part of an ephah of fine flour for a meal offering perpetually, half of it in the morning and half of it thereof in the evening. That's what I just read is in verse 13. All right. So I'm reading out of the standard Masoretic text of the Tanakh. I don't know if there's a different version being used, so the verses may be a little different. But when we get to the book of Leviticus chapter 6 in the next couple of months or so, this will be explained more in thorough as far as the position of verses. All right. But I do think person for the time in that particular regard. All right. Because what I read in here in the Masoretic text in Leviticus 6:5, it says, and the fire upon the altar shall be kept burning thereby. And this is talking about the altar of burnt offerings. All right. Cain. So, right, if you have the King James version, the verses may be placed different, but we're still reading the same wording. It's just giving different verses of it. Not versions, but verses. All right. So this is something I just want to point out in edification purposes. Let's go on, brothers and sisters, if we will. Items of brass, silver, and gold. The sockets, altar, and pins, brass. The sockets of the tabernacle, hooks, pillars of the court of the tabernacle, silver. Ark of the covenant, table of showbread, the menorah, the boards of the tabernacle, gold. So I just want to show into this particular regard what was made, as we read in a portion, what was of brass, what was of silver, and what was of gold. All right. One of the things we attempt to do here in Shema Yisrael is to go into the portion as much and in depth as we can and to sit there and let it be shown for edification purposes. All right. This is something we want to sit there and point out, brothers and sisters. Some people have been, as stated, chosen, elected, if you will, to sit there and get certain things out to the people. All right. And we take that very serious. All right. Today, I happen to be off from where I'm working at, so I'm able to sit there and get the time done in this particular regard. Okay, let's go on, if we will, brothers and sisters, into the next particular part of this. All right. Exodus chapter 27, verse 21 to verse 22. All right. So we can gain understanding of what we're talking about. Now, let's read. This part here is called Tetzaweh, which means you will command. All right. And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn continually in a tent of meeting without the veil, meaning outside of the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his son shall set it in order to burn from even to morning before Yah. It shall be a statute forever throughout their generations on behalf of the children of Israel. From evening to morning, from evening to morning. And there was evening and there was morning one day. The morning is like the time that we're in now. There was evening and there was morning one day. Okay, Israel? So, getting into this particular aspect right here. Exodus chapter 27, verse 20 to verse 21, and Leviticus chapter 24, verse 1 through 4. It says olive oil. Now, what I was able to pull up and show, brothers and sisters, is this is how olive oil or olives look in this regard. Let's go back, if we will, and I want to show something here. The matter of olive oil is mentioned in Deuteronomy 6, verse 11, as well as in Deuteronomy 28, verse 40. Olive oil has vitamin E, K, anti-inflammatory matters, and it prevents heart disease. All right, so olive oil, the 10 reasons, according to this, you should eat it is cardiovascular benefits, weight loss, cancer prevention, decreased pain, improve skin and hair health, reduces allergies, digestive tract health, good source of iron for the people dealing with anemia, improve eye health, increase glutathione levels. All right, I'm going to need somebody to help me what that one means. But the point, getting back into this particular subject, I want to emphasize when it says improves eye health and increased source of iron. Brothers and sisters, everything that can happen with a human, the Most High God has already put into the earth. I want to sit there and show this. If you look at this, red clover, that is an herb, as well as summer is an herb. Do you realize that those two herbs sit there and repair the body from HIV? Red clover and summer. Red clover cleanses out your liver. What HIV does, it attacks your liver and causes it to expand. Summa repairs your immune system. So heaven forbid somebody is dealing with the aspect, unfortunately, of HIV and so forth and so on. What those two herbs there do, which is red clover and summa, is that it repairs your liver, the red clover, and your immune system is repaired by summa. I state again, everything that can happen, unfortunately, with a person, yes, the Most High God did have a cure or a certain strong antidote for it. This is something we want to point out for edification purposes. See, when we talk about, oh, they're always going against the New Testament, they always talking about the Old Testament, they don't deal with the Minhagim and the Talmud and so forth and so on. Brothers and sisters, none of those other doctrines can ever compare to the word of Yah. So this is why when you see us go, as some may say, in the street banging hard, or as some may say, going and thorough as one can't do professionally stated as, is because our God Yah is the only one that can sit there and give these kind of blessings. Did you know, brothers and sisters, that when they say that the this book here was copied from such and such record from such and such place, why is it that the Code of Hammurabi, why is it that the Principles of Ma'at, why is it that the Gilgamesh Epic, why is it that the Enuma Elish, why is it that the Kibra Nagast, none of them can compare to the blessings that Yah said that he would give to his people when they keep his laws, statutes, and commandments? Did you know that? Did you know that Ashur, the God of the Assyrians, cannot promise what Yah promised in Deuteronomy 28? As the brother Chief Yashar pointed out, when we talk about Deuteronomy 28, we may want to focus perhaps on verse 1 to verse 13, so you can see the kind of things that Yah spoke about. Let's go there. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, and we're not going to start like in my book on Deuteronomy 28:15. No, the book that I wrote on Deuteronomy 28:15 to 68, the condition of the blacks online. We're going to go in this teaching from Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And let's see if anybody can sit there and say that any god of any other nation said that he, or in some cases, they do what goddesses, she will do for his, or in some cases, her people, what Yah said he will do. Let's go on. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently. We are reading in Deuteronomy 28. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of Yah your power, to observe to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that Yah your God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of Yah your power. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field. Blessed shall be the fruit of your body, and the fruit of thy land, and the fruit of your cattle, the increase of thy kind, and the young of thy flock. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy kneaded trough. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. Yah will cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thee. They shall come out against thee one way, and shall flee before thee 7 ways. Yah will command the blessing with thee in thy barns, and in all that thou puttest thy hand unto, and Yah will bless thee in the land which Yah thy God giveth thee. Yah will establish thee for a holy people unto himself, as he has sworn unto thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the commandments of Yah Eloheka, the Lord thy God, and walk in his ways. And all the peoples of the earth shall see that the name of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is called upon thee, and they shall be afraid of thee. Let's go on. And it goes on to say, and Yah will make thee overabundant for good in the fruit of thy body, in the fruit of thy cattle, in the fruit of thy land, in the land which Yah swore unto thy fathers to give thee. Yah will open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven, to give thee rain of thy land in its season, and to bless all the work of thy hand, that thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow. And Yah shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if thou shalt hearken unto the commandments of Yah your power, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them. Brothers and sisters, where can any of these other gods of the nations say, like Yah can say about what he will do for the house of Israel? None. When all of the stuff that they talk about, I want to emphasize again, when they call the Epic of Gilgamesh of ancient Sumer, when they talk about the principles of Ma'at of ancient Egypt, when they talk about the Kibra Nagast of ancient Kush, when they start to sit there and talk about the New Testament going there in regards to Rome, because all in Rome called to be saints, according to Paul, that's not, the Romans don't get that love in the Old Testament. But getting back into the particular aspect, brothers and sisters, in the Arabian book with Islam called the Quran, none of those doctrines can sit there and state that the God of said nation or said people or said tribe will do what Yah said that he will do for the house of Israel. We're talking about getting blessings with your children, getting blessings in your land, and all the work that you put your hand to do, which means you still got to sit there and do work. Then the other part that says all the enemies that come up against thee shall be smitten before thee. It doesn't say enemies, aka problems, won't come. It just says that it will be eliminated. Not that it will never exist, but when they come up, Yah will have it to be dealt with. And this is what we're talking about. You know what shows to be true, that Yah is a true and a living God? Because the things that he talks about are things that apply to life. Your children, your land, your livestock, your finances, your economy. These are things that help making people function. It's not talking about going up there as a man, as a whore with 7 virgins. 70, sorry. This is not the doctrine of the house of Israel. We do not teach our sons, sit there and die and you will get virgins in heaven. No, we teach our sons to be like David said to Solomon, show yourself to be a man and keep the laws of Moshe. This is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. All right? So when you can sit there and apply and show your philosophy, your teaching, your ideology, your doctrine, not religion, Once it comes to reality, then you begin to sit there and see how Yah is the true and the living God. Because all these other gods of these other nations don't talk about things that's reality. This is something we want to point out for edification purposes. These gods of these other nations do not talk about things that's of reality because they're not real. That's why they can't talk. They got mouths, but they speak not. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Brothers and sisters, it says that in regards to the olives aspect, skin and hair health, right? As you see there. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 40. So we can begin to see something. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 40. So we can gain some understanding for edification purposes. All right? And it says this. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy borders, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olives shall drop off. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 11. We read this here every Shabbat in this congregation here, Shema Yisrael. We are in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verse 11, and we see the following. And houses full of all good things which thou didst not fill, and cisterns hewn not which thou didst not hew, vineyards and olive trees which thou didst not plant, and thou shalt eat and be satisfied. Then beware lest thou forget Yah, who brought thee out from the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So it speaks about vineyards and olive trees. You know, the trees that have the olives. It's called zaytim in the Hebrew. And we can see there 10 reasons why people, as it says there, should eat olives. It speaks about the aspect, brothers and sisters, that shalom to the people in the room. It speaks about the aspect there, brothers and sisters, about the olives and the benefits of it. And we see about olives in the book of Deuteronomy. And part of the curses is that you will not, brothers and sisters, have the use of the olives. So instead of health food, they just give you food in the lands of your captivity. Let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, to Exodus chapter 27 to Leviticus 24, please. We're in Leviticus chapter 24. We're going to start in verse 1. And Yah spoke unto Moshe, saying, command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure olive oil beaten for the light, to cause a lamp to burn continually without the veil, meaning outside of the veil of the testimony. Testimony is where the Ark of the Covenant was kept. In the tent of meeting shall Aaron order it from even to morning before Yah, continually as a statute forever throughout your generations. He shall order the lamps upon the pure candlestick before Yah continually. All right, so in Leviticus chapter 24, verse 1 through 4, I actually wanted to show here a picture where it says brag olive oil. And as we shown earlier about the health benefits of such. All right. So we want to go into this particular aspect right here. The Most High gave you things that are healthy. Brothers and sisters, last August, thankful to the Most High, I'm better now, but I got sick. And when I wound up getting out of the hospital in the month of September of last year, right, I changed my whole diet. No more soda, cutting down on sugar severely. And I began to eat olives with the salads for lunch and so forth and so on. When I came back around the time of Yom Teruah, a couple of days after the Shabbat between Yom Teruah and the Shabbat between Yom Kippur is when I came back to the congregation Shema Yisrael. And the people in Shema here was saying, wow, you look different. You understand, like your skin is glowing, is this and that. And maybe it's something that I couldn't see that they saw. You understand? But one of the things I'm using that as an aspect to point out for edification purposes, the things that the Most High God made, brothers and sisters, was for your benefit. The Most High did not give you nothing for your detriment. You understand? Even when you talk about black seed oil, they say that thing cures pains and all kinds of stuff. There are women who can counsel other women about what to do once it comes down to the aspect of cramps during the time of her uncleanness. Men can sit there and counsel men about what to do when they sit there and deal with certain matters. I will not sit there and get too in depth right now. But the point is, speaking as adults in this particular case, once it comes down to certain things, brothers and sisters, the Most High has already left an antidote to the situations. I am telling you, I have a relative, brothers and sisters, the way they diagnose the AIDS virus, all right, is by saying your T cell count, which comes from your thymus gland in your neck, goes less than 20. So basically, they're saying you are AIDS patient or AIDS having or full-blown AIDS, as they say, when your T cell count goes beneath 20. The things I'm pointing out, such as taking the thing called Suma, S-U-M-A, and taking the thing called red clover, brothers and sisters, Suma helps repair your immune system. Red clover helps repair your liver. Because once your liver goes out, your liver is the thing that filters your blood. So once that goes out, who knows what happens then? So what red clover, giving thanks to the Most High God, what that does, which is an herb from the earth, like we come from the earth, so your body is going to sit there and relate to where it both came from, the herbs, and you come from the earth. Brothers and sisters, this is why we teach, and I teach, I can say, that when Genesis 1:26 says, let us make man, we come from the earth. So the Most High was talking to the earth, the external aspect mother of us as humans, because dust you are, and to dust you shall return. The dust of the earth you shall go back to. There was no God talking to Jesus, talking about let us make man. No, it is talking about the Most High speaking to his creation, and the one who gets all the credit is the creator himself. These are things we want to talk about for edification purposes. So when we say Shema Yisrael is a school of understanding, these are things that we're talking about to bring light out to the people. All right? So let's go on, brothers and sisters, in this particular regard. Exodus chapter 28, verse 1-2. And thou shalt bring near unto thee Aaron and thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron, Aharon, meaning lightning, Nadab, meaning noble, Abihu, meaning he is my father, Eleazar, meaning the Most High is help, and Itamar, meaning Alan, a palm, like a palm tree, Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aharon, your brother, for splendor and for beauty. Let's go on. And it says this, Wa'ata, Hakreb eleka et Aharon akika, wa et banael ito, mitok bene Yisrael, la kahano li, Aharon, Nadab, wa Abihu, El Azar, wa Itamar bene Aharon. What another point to make, brothers and sisters, is this. Aaron is older than Moses. But you don't see Aaron in many cases, or hardly ever, that's my baby brother. That's my baby brother. No, there's an order. Yah chose Moshe, the baby brother, to be, to a certain extent, over Aaron. Aaron would not be in his correct feelings to be, that's still my baby brother. I still got rank because I'm older. Yah, the oldest one, chose your baby brother. And Aaron knew his place. Point is this, you cannot in the house of Yisrael even sit there and just use your age as a reason. Yes, you respect your elders, but the elders should be understandable enough and mature enough to sit there and say that Yah will choose whom Yah will choose. Jacob was the younger. Yitzchak was the younger. Ephraim was the younger. You understand? So Moshe in this regard was the younger. Yisrael is the youngest nation, biblically speaking. So these are things we want to point out for reason and purposes. Now, that doesn't mean you don't respect your elders. Don't get beside yourself, even if you are chosen. David knew that, and he was the youngest, and the Most High chose him for something. But he didn't look down on his older brothers saying, Yah chose me. No, because that's not what the house of Jesse was about. So these are things we want to point out, that even if Yah chose you for a particular point, you don't sit there and because it says in Torah and Psalms, your law makes me wiser than my teachers. Then if you know law, you know that you don't revile one of the judges of the house of Israel. You don't disrespect your elders just because the Most High has chosen you to do a particular thing. The Most High didn't give no man a license to do evil, as it says in the Apocrypha. So just as Yah gave you something, Yah can take it back. Don't think so? Two of the people we read right here, Nadab and Abihu, slain, no children. Go in the book of Leviticus. They lit strange fire, Yah slew them. Yah will give and Yah takes away. Yah will sit there and employ, give you a job, and the Most High fires as well. And I don't mean to sound harsh or disrespectful, but it goes to show there's an order when you're dealing with the Most High God. You understand? It says, I believe it's in the book of Ecclesiastes, know before whom thou standest. You understand? So when you read about the particular aspect with Nadab and Abihu, the Most High called them by name, just like the Most High called the children of Israel by name. And if there was to be any change in the culture of Israel regarding the priesthood, Yah would have stated it, like he did in the book of Ezekiel. He said that the priest line, when Israel returns, will be only of those of the house of Zadok. The house of Zadok are the people that come out of the line of Eleazar. The house of Itamar in the future will not hold the same priesthood status as the house of Eleazar when you read Ezekiel chapter 43 and Ezekiel chapter 48. So there's an order to certain things. The Most High hires and the Most High fires. The house of Itamar has been demoted when you go to Ezekiel chapter 43 and Ezekiel chapter 48. The house of Zadok has been promoted and singled out. You do this job, because the Levites did so bad, even when Israel go back, you can't even hold the same position as then. What does that teach us, house of Israel? I want to point this out. The house of Itamar, when Israel returns back in the Holy Land, will not hold the same position that you see here in Exodus. It will still be Aaronites, but it will be of the house of Zadok, which is a part of the house of Eleazar. Itamar don't hold that position no more. Nadab and Abihu never had any children. The Most High hires and the Most High gets rid of. So if you don't want your seed to be getting rid of, do what's right before Yah. The things that you do now affect your children. What did Moses say about Reuben? May Reuben live and not die, that his men be few. This is not religion, O house of Yisrael. There is not one mitzvah in the entire Tanakh. There is not one mitzvah. Sound like Yitzchak, huh? Yitzchak means what? Laughter. Well, mitzvah means game. There is no games in the laws of the Most High. So when we're dealing with this, brothers and sisters, the priests, the sons of Aaron, were to be in training from age 25 to age 30. When you reach age 30, the games end. You even have sisters today saying you should not get married to a man until he's over 30, because that's when we're going to keep the language clean, that's when all the games and the foolishness stops in most men. Your maturity is supposed to set in by the time you're over the age of 30. The priests are not to do any offerings until the age of 30. You work from the age of 30 until the age of 50. Why? Because when you get over 50, perhaps this, can't no youngster tell me Aaron was older than Moses. No, you can't come before Yah with that elder arrogant attitude. You can't come before Yah with the youngster silly attitude. Wanting to play games, and everything is a joke. At the age of 26, age of 25, age of 24. Some people say that your early 20s, you just like a big teenager. But when you are in your 30s, nobody says you're like anything other than just straight mature. This is what we're talking about for edification purposes. And then when you get older, what do they say? You're set in your ways. So when you have a situation when you are officiating as a priest, you don't do that over the age of 50. Because when you get set in your ways as older people Ain't nobody telling me nothing. I have relatives that are like that, and they are entitled to that, but you can't do that in the priesthood. You entitled if you a certain age to sit there and say, none of y'all can tell me nothing. And all the youngsters must know when to shut their mouth up and just say, let it be. Just like Elihu did in the book of Job. He let all the elders speak, and then he spoke in Job chapter 32. There's a time to speak and a time to refrain from speaking. But you got some who don't understand that particular aspect. This is what we can glean and gain out of the Tanakh. You understand? Right. There is an order indeed. Yes, there was an order. There's certainly an order. Somebody wrote in that there was an order indeed. And anytime somebody went outside the order, bad things happen. Take Jeroboam, for instance. He wasn't supposed to be doing offerings. Take Uzziah, king of Judah. He wasn't supposed to be doing offerings. You understand? So these are things that we just want to know and show for edification purposes. Uriah was the king of the tribe of Judah. The Most High already gave you your position. It's just like even if we look in this congregation here, Shema Yisrael, I was asked and given a position of being a Hebrew teacher, and I take that very serious. Just for those who may know, I take teaching the Hebrew class very serious. You understand? I take it as serious as making sure I get up and out the house to get to the European man's job on time, so I won't get written up again. You understand? So once it comes down to that, when I was asked to do the Hebrew classes, I took that as Yah speaking through the brothers to me. Of course I'll do it. Not a problem. Let's set this up. Let's get the board. Let's get the markers. Let's get this thing done. Let's go over this. And I still give respect to my teachers before me. And they don't even go to Shema. But it's called honor and respect. You understand? I give respect to the teachers who taught me the Hebrew. Moreh Hoshea, Moreh Tebach, Adon Aharon, Moreh Yosef. Those are the ones who passed, as well as the ones blessed be their lives to continue. Moreh Mishael, as well as Kohen Mikael. Those are my Hebrew teachers, as well as Moreh Yehosadek. So you got Moreh Yehosadek, one, Moreh Mishael, another, Kohen Mikael, all three still among us. May the Most High continue to spare their life and be with them. Then there were those who passed away. May the Most High rest their soul in peace. Moreh Hoshea, he was a Hebrew teacher of mine. Moreh Yosef was a Hebrew teacher of mine. Moreh Tebach was a Hebrew teacher of mine, as well as Adon Aharon was a Hebrew teacher of mine. That's 7 people. 7, maybe completion, don't know. But I know when I was asked and given a position to teach the Hebrew here, that's why you can see, blessed be the Most High, the Hebrew on one side of the PowerPoint and English on the other. I take that very serious. You understand? Sometimes trying to catch up on classes, blessed be the Most High. Because you can't say that you're going to go and work under the oppressor with a smile on your face and make sure you're there at a certain time and then slack when you're given a position to do work for the people of the Most High God. That is part of blessed be the Most High, my terumah, my offering given up. Of course, I don't have no curtains to sit there and give and so forth and so on. But if there's Hebrew to be discussed and noted, blessed be the Most High, having those 7 great men as my elders and teachers, let the job get done. Blessed be Yah. That's my terumah. You understand? That's my offering. That's my heave offering. The offerings of our lips, as it says in the book of Hosea. You understand? So, not to be funny, and it's not to sound arrogant, I don't play and don't take lightly the Hebrew class. If I make a mistake like I did in Hebrew lesson number 18, you're going to see it in the comments, and then you'll see me correct it inside of lesson number 19. There are some people, the arrogancy, pride, and the evil way and the forward mouth do I hate, says Proverbs 8. Proverbs 8, wisdom says, arrogancy, pride, and the forward mouth do I hate. Counsel is mine and sound wisdom. I am understanding. Power is mine. Counsel belongs to wisdom. So I have no problem, as it says in Proverbs 8, counsel is mine and sound wisdom. I have no problem asking my brother Rob Zodidan, my brother Yehoiakim, both blood brothers of the sons of Mor and Mishael, should I teach Hebrew like this, or what do you think about that? I have no problem asking my Hebrew teacher, Kohen Mikael, should I do it online like this, or should I do it online like that? There is nothing wrong with that particular case. All right? So this is something we want to point out. Now, I want to just type something in. All right. Okay, somebody has stated Tob Ruach. I just want to state it's Ruach Tob, Hebrew. Why? Because Tob is good. The adjective follows the noun in Hebrew. Similar to Spanish, like you say Casablanca means White House. Well, in Spanish, the adjective follows the noun. Same in Hebrew. The adjective follows the noun. What does that tell us? English is the one that's kind of like doop, doop, twisted, even in European languages. So I just wanted to point that out as far as it goes down in that particular case. You understand? And so when a brother has been appointed to be the drummer, for instance, when you look at the congregation here, right? The brother Prince Shimshon, who does the drumming, he's good at it. He takes that serious. When the services start, let's get upstairs. We got to get this done. Why? Because it's something that we're doing as a service before the Most High to the people. You understand? This is something that, and I want to state this is something that was stated to me off camera by the elder to me, Principal. This is what we're doing for Yah. That was all a brother had to, a younger brother had to sit there and hear. Because you know why? When I was younger and I heard, go this way. And then I went the way I was told and see them busting guns on the other side. Whoa, Yah saved me. So now when the Most High did something when you was a child, when you was living in the hood, as the saying goes, you understand? And before they started busting their guns, the Glock 9s and everything like that, go this way. And y'all prevented me from getting shot and becoming another statistic. So now with that, blessed be the Most High's name, once it comes down to giving something back to the people, you cannot front on that. You cannot sit there and go aside from the work that Yah has chosen. You can't do the Jonah. You got to do the Bezalel and you got to do the Ahaliab. Those were the tribe of Judah guy and the tribe of Dan guy that built the menorah. It was two people, one named Bezalel and another one named Ahaliab. Those two young men or those two men were the ones who did all the work that we're seeing right here. Besides the people who brought in the stuff, when they got all the stuff together, they were the ones who took the gold, fashioned it out, did this and did all of that. Now sanctify it, and Bezalel and Ahaliab, you can't touch it no more. See, there's a lot of lessons to be gleaned about this. There's a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A lot of people do that in relationships. You want to embrace when it's time to let go. And this is why Torah has a thing called karitut, called divorce. You understand? You don't sit there and hold on to something that is a problem to you. This is what we want to point out in the house of Yisrael. All right? So this is something we want to point out for reason and purposes. So now let's go back, if we will, into this particular case, into this particular regard. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aharon thy brother, for splendor and for beauty. Wa asita big de kodesh. La Aharon achika lekabed ul tiferet. So what are we reading, brothers and sisters? That in the house of Israel, your appearance too is important. In the house of Israel, your appearance too is important. It makes a distinguishing mark. It sets a certain tone. It says something about you. Where I used to work at, right? It said on the board, your shirt will be clean, your tie will be neat, your shoes will be shined, your blazer will be clean. Do you realize they're giving you commandments? All right. Don't you see that? I'm telling you from where I was working at. They didn't sit there and say, can you come in with the clean shirt? The sign when you go into the locker room, it said, your shirt will be clean. Your appearance will be as such. your shoes will look as such. That's why I love the discipline that I got out of Hashaba Yisrael. You understand? When you look at a congregation such as that, you had your Shabbat shoes. You didn't wear the same shoes that you wore all week on Shabbat in that particular order. The order that I got and the discipline that I got out of Kosher Erit, even as a little boy, I knew if I ran around, I remember 1 or 2 Shabbats in particular. If I ran around before we got to the train on Shabbat in my socks, and my socks was dirty before we got to Kosher Erit from running around Saturday morning as a little kid in the house, my mother had to sit there, take them socks off, and put on the clean socks. Because before we went into where the service was at in Kosher Erit in the Bronx, they had it to where you don't walk in here with your regular shoes on. Take your shoes off and put on the shoes that are already assigned for your foot size. There was an order in Yisrael, brothers and sisters, the so-called falashers who call themselves Beta Yisrael. Ever so often, the young men meet before the elders and they bow before the elders. The Apocrypha says, cause the youngsters to be humbled before the elders. It tells you that in the book of Ecclesiasticus. You understand? But just like Principal Paul points out here, what happens in this society? They'll have the child sitting down on the train and the adults getting up. Leviticus chapter 19, please. We're going to sit there and see how backward this society is from the book that most of our grandparents have on their shelf. You understand? Most have the Old and the New Testament, but we're going to read only out the Old Testament. And let's see what it says in the book that most of our grandparents cherish and have on their bookshelf. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 32. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man, and thou shalt fear, respect thy power. I am Yah. So right here, we see, brothers and sisters, you shall rise up before the hoary head. You don't sit there and have the child sit down and the adults get up for them, providing the child is not sick or so forth and so on. But you have it to where parents don't want to deal with their fidgety children, so they'll sit there and get up and have the child sit. No, not in the house I came up out of. You stand up, learn to stand still, hold the pole. Elder that's over 50, ma'am, do you care for the seat? Sir, do you care for the seat? They don't care for the seat. You stand there anyway, young man. This is the kind of discipline that needs to be taught to the Yeladim so they can know how to respect a figure of authority. Brothers and sisters, there is, as we keep on saying, an order. You want to know why you have it to where the 70s and the 80s, there was children that even they wouldn't use profanity, though they did, but they refrained in front of elders? Not today. They cursing elders out. You understand? Because you want to go away from laws like Leviticus chapter 19 and ask us as Old Testament Israelites, where's our goat at? You got children disrespecting parents, but you want to ask us, where's our sin offering? What you need to do is get a belt for the child's behind who don't know how to behave. I've gotten a belt to my behind by my mommy. You'll live. You'll be okay. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes, brothers and sisters. Let's go on. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to sanctify him, that he may minister unto me in a priest's office. And these are the garments which thou shalt make: a breastplate, and an ephod, and a mitre, and a girdle. Some say mitre, some say mitre, okay? And a girdle. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother and his sons, that he may minister unto me in a priest's office. And they shall take the gold and the blue and the purple and the scarlet and the fine linen. So this just goes to show you what we're talking about. Now, what we're looking at, what we're going to read, brothers and sisters, here, all right? Exodus chapter 28, verse 6 through 12. This particular aspect right here just goes to show how the priest garments look. Now, when I was able to pull up these images and pictures, I made sure of two things: that there was no Christianity thrown in there on a slide or on a low, or there was no images, be it black or white. I just tried to take something that had a wooden image or whatever and just showing the images in that. So it took me a little while when I was setting a PowerPoint up here to even sit there because I had to dissect. Nope, can't use that picture. You talking about JC. Nope, got to sit there and can't use that picture. They trying to show Japhet as the son of Levi. Nope, can't sit there and use that picture. They just trying to sit there and show a black JC. So there was a lot of work. Believe it or not, the majority of this PowerPoint being put together is in the later, from this PowerPoint here to the later part, because I had to sit there and edit which pictures to use and not use. All right, but getting back to the point here in this regard, we are going to be talking about the ephod. All right, let's go on. And they shall make the ephod of gold, of blue, of purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen, the work of the skillful workman. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces joined to the 2 ends thereof, that it may be joined together, and the skillful woven band which is upon it, wherewith to gird it on. It shall be like the work thereof, and of the same piece of gold, of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And thou shalt take 2 onyx stones, and grave on them the names of the children of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the names of the 6 that remain on the other stone, according to their birth. Let's remember the part about their birth. With the work of an engraver in stone, like the engravings of a signet, shalt thou engrave the 2 stones. According to the names of the children of Israel, thou shalt make them to be enclosed in settings of gold. Representation, huh? So the priests have things that show representation for us before the Most High. Shalt thou engrave the two stones according to the names of the children of Israel. Thou shalt make them to be enclosed in settings of gold, and thou shalt put the 2 stones upon the shoulder pieces of the ephod to be stones of memorial for the children of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before Yah upon his 2 shoulders for a memorial. So what we're dealing with and what we're dealing with at this particular is this. You had the ephod. I want to sit there and show that the ephod and the tribes of Israel. Now the ephod, as you see the 2 shoulder pieces, the black things that you see there are like the 2 onyx stones. All right, onyx actually can be any color stone, but because there's different they have different stones with different colors, but the chemical makeup is how it gets its name, not its color. I found that out as I was studying this. But now, looking over this right here, this is the ephod that is attached to. Oh, sorry, this whole thing is the ephod, and the breastplate is attached to the ephod, and the ephod is attached around underneath the arms to its pieces. Now, what you're looking at on the right-hand side, the blue things that you see there were actually meant to be golden. All right, there's actually golden chains that connect to the back of it, so that's why it says it becomes of one piece. Now these stones represent the tribes of Israel, as we're going to explain as this goes on, but I just want to sit there and show for edification purposes how this looked. All right, to the best of one's ability with that. It goes on to say here, Exodus chapter 28:13, and thou shalt make settings of gold and 2 chains of pure gold. Of plaited thread thou shalt make them of wreathen work, and thou shalt put the wreathen chains on the settings. And thou shalt make a breastplate of judgment, the work of the skillful workman, like the work of the ephod. Thou shalt make it of gold, of blue, of purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen shalt thou make it. 4 square it shall be, and double. A span shall be the length thereof, and a span the breadth thereof. Now a span is generally said to be the half of a cubit. So if a cubit is 18 inches, a span is 9 inches. All right, let's go on into this particular regard. And thou shalt set it in settings of stones, 4 rows of stones. We are in Exodus chapter 28, verse 17. A row of carnelian, topaz, and smaragd shall be the first row. In the second row, a carbuncle, a sapphire, and an emerald. In the third row, a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. and the fourth row a beryl, and an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be enclosed in gold in their settings. All right, so this is something the ephod in the tribes of the children of Israel. The ephod was worn by the high priest in Israel. At times, some such as David wore it, but that was a rare matter. The Israelite priesthood was unique to itself nonetheless. So this right here is a replica of how it will look in this particular regard. All right. So you had Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. All right. Now, when you look at this particular thing right here, you're reading it like Hebrew goes from the right hand to the left. Dan, my favorite color actually, and the tribe I claim is blue. But the point I want to emphasize in this particular regard, brothers and sisters, is the breastplate of judgment, which goes upon the ephod. The ephod is what we're going to show right here on the left-hand side. The breastplate goes onto the ephod. The ephod is the thing that actually is part where the ephod is connected to the shoulder pieces and everything. All of that together is one. So the stones are enclosed in gold in their settings. When I was younger, I remember thinking, this wasn't taught, but this is what I thought. Because, like, I'm 37, right? So it's like, blessed be the Most High. When I was like 7 and 8 years old, I remember they used to wear, I don't like the terminology, but they used to wear what they call the dookie chain and the big gold chains and the big silver chains and the 2 and 3 finger rings back in like 1987 and 1988. And I'm thinking to myself, like, when Maury Yosef, may he rest in peace, went over this portion, I'm thinking, like, is this why in spirit why we always wear those big gold chains on our neck like that? If you remember the rapper Slick Rick, he had a whole plethora of gold chains. And I remember seeing images, not maybe as much as Slick Rick, but I remember in Brooklyn when the older dudes would sit there and have, or the older men, pardon me, want to stay in character, they used to sit there and have a bunch of chains on their neck. So if you look at like the Aaronite aspect in the priesthood, you begin to see that they had gold all over them. You understand what I'm saying? We were a lavish people. You understand? So getting back into this particular aspect here, right? I wanted to show this particular part. Okay. Now, Exodus chapter 28, verse 15 and verse 21. All right. It says carnelian, brownish red, topaz, mirage, carbuncle red, sapphire blue, emerald, jacinth, agate, amethyst, beryl, onyx, jasper, reddish brown. Now, some, as you may see, all right, have it to where the colors are there and colors are not there. When I looked up these colors, some of them certainly for the tribe of Asher, which is the agate. You understand? They certainly had about 5 different colors of it. So then when I looked up the mineral and composition of these kind of gems and stones, I began to see that they identified not by the color, but they identified by the mineral content of it. So that's why you have, let's say, a gate for Asher that had 5 different colors. You understand? Because it's talking about the actual gem itself and not the color of it. Because you will see onyx generally as black, but there is a white onyx stone as well. All right. So this is something we just want to point out. And all of these minerals come from the same place that man came from, the earth. So let's go on, brothers and sisters, into this particular regard right here. Right? We are in the book of Exodus, chapter 28, verse 22. And it says this: and thou shalt make upon the breastplate plated chains of recent work of pure gold. And thou shalt make upon the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and shalt put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And thou shalt put the 2 wreathen chains of gold upon the 2 rings at the ends of the breastplate, and the other 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains thou shalt put on the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod and the forefront thereof. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and thou shalt put them upon the 2 ends of the breastplate, upon the edge thereof, which is toward the side of the ephod inward. And thou shalt make 2 rings of gold, and shalt put them on the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod underneath, in the forefront thereof, close by the coupling thereof, above the skillfully woven band of the ephod, detailed I see. And thou shalt bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the ring of the ephod with a thread of blue, that it may be upon the skillfully woven band of the ephod, that the breastplate be not loosened from the ephod. All right. So this is something we wanted to point out in that particular regard. Now, when we're looking at this, I'm going to get to the next one. Well, we're looking at this particular one right here. This has it to where the two shoulder pieces, we're looking at the one on the left-hand side. Then you have it to where the casing set is in gold upon the breastplate, and then the shoulder pieces. On the right-hand side, you will begin to see that, and that's where the joining comes in together. So it joins on top of the shoulders, and then when you see underneath where the guy's left and arm right is at, you look and see where that blue string there is that, and that attaches it all together so it won't be loosened, so it's all connected. So when the high priest moves, it doesn't sit there and move from side to side and so forth. All right. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. So essentially it's attached. All right. Let's go on. We are in Exodus chapter 28. Let's start in verse 28. And thou shalt bind the breastplate by the rings thereof unto the rings of the ephod with a thread of blue, that it may be upon the skillfully woven band of the ephod, and that the breastplate be not loosened from the ephod. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel, and the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in unto the holy place, for a memorial before Yah continually. And thou shalt put on the breastplate of judgment the Urim and Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart when he goeth in before Yah. And Aaron shall bear the judgment of the children of Israel upon his heart before Yah continually. So what can that teach us? That the things that the children of Israel do affects the priesthood, because the priests work for the people. You understand? So if the people are severely wilding out or doing crazy, all kinds of wild stuff, it's going to affect the priesthood. The priests were the human mediators. I don't want to say intercessors. What mediators, if that's not even the same meaning, but between the Most High and the people. The priests were the doctors. The Levites were the doctors. There was no particular set land in the house of Israel for the Levites to themselves. They were in everybody else's land. There were 48, however, Levitical cities, and there were 12 tribes. All right. So of the 48 Levitical cities, 6 of them were the city of refuge. And you read about the 6 cities of refuge by name when you go to Joshua chapter 20. All right. There were 4 Levitical cities in each of the 12 tribes. All right. So there's 4 in Reuben, there's 4 in Gad, there's 4 in Dan, and so forth and so on. All right. So 4 times 12 gives you 48. 48 Levitical cities, 6 of them being the 6 cities of refuge. There's 3 cities of refuge on the east side of the Jordan. There's 3 cities of refuge on the west side of the Jordan. And as you can see in the priesthood, as well as in the tabernacle, we're going to go right back to that word. There was an order. It was not a ragtag group of clothed people. It was not a ragtag group of just people just wandering around in the desert. We already shown, brothers and sisters, how the tribes looked as far as it goes with the standing of the tribes here. All right. So you had Judah, Issachar, Zebulun. That was one. Dan, Asher, Naphtali. That was another. Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin. That was another. Then you had Gad, Simeon, and Reuben. Now, one of the things to point out is this. Dan and Naphtali had the same mom. All right. You had Asher and Gad that had the same mom. Reuben and Simeon had the same mom. Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, had the same dad who had the same mom with the brother Benjamin. Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun all had the same mom. All of the 12 tribes of Israel outside of Benjamin was named by their mothers, and all the names that the tribes had a meaning to it. So these are things, once again, as stating, is, brothers and sisters, that there was an order already established. It was not a ragtag group of people just wandering around. And now taking it back to this particular aspect, brothers and sisters, it was not a ragtag group of dressed people. So if the priest set the standard, brothers and sisters, then we may want to, not trying to be arrogant, we may want to step up our garments. We may want to sit there and step up, not to be funny, our linguistics. Because, brothers and sisters, the Levites didn't speak English. So what we're going to get into now, brothers and sisters, is looking at this particular thing right here. I wanted to show for edification purposes, all right? Exodus 28 in the Urim and Thummim. According to Josephus, the stones on the breastplate of Aaron will light up. That may or may not be true, but that is taken from a historian, Josephus. Why do I emphasize a historian, Josephus? Because we have to know the distinction between a scribe and historian, a storyteller, a recorder, and a prophet. Josephus was not a prophet. He was a historian. So I'm not saying it to say yay or nay in his favor, but we can't take what a historian says about the order and laws of the Most High and hold it in par as if it is one coupled with the laws of the Most High. This is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Let's go, if we will, to Numbers chapter 27, verse 18, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. All right? Numbers chapter 27, verse 18, and it says the following, okay? And Yah said unto Moshe, take thee Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is spirit, and lay thy hand upon him, and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation, and give him a charge in their sight. And thou shalt put of thy honor upon him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may hearken. And he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall inquire of him by the judgment of the Urim before Yah. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the children of Israel with him, even all the congregation. And Moshe did as Yah commanded him. So did Joshua set him before Eleazar the priest. Pardon me. And he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation. And he laid his hands upon him and gave him a charge, as Yah had spoken by the hand of Moshe. Let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, to Joshua chapter 4, verse 14, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Joshua chapter 4, verse 14. On that day, Yah magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared, meaning respected him, as they feared, meaning respected Moses, all the days of his life. So the respect that was given to Joshua was likened unto the respect that was given unto Moses. So who would be a very strong candidate to be the person that Deuteronomy 18 talks about when it says what? A prophet with the Lord thy God raise up unto thee. Because just as Moshe ended off in the prophecy, so did Joshua 24 ended off in the prophecy. So these are things we just want to go and show for edification purposes. All right? Let's go. I want to answer that question. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 4. All right? Somebody asked, was the Urim and Thummim something separated that was attached to or put in the ephod, or is it another name for the koshen chest plate? Okay, let's look and see. Let's let the Tanakh answer that one. Thank you for that question. We're going to go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 4. All right? And it says this. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Israel together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled. And when Saul inquired of Yah, Yah did not answer him neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then said Samuel unto his servant, seek me a woman that divineth by a ghost, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said unto him, Behold, there is a woman divided by a ghost at Endor. So let's look at the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 28, and verse 6. And when Saul inquired by Yah, Yah did not answer him, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by the prophets. So we have to then begin to see, brother, sister, that the Urim and Thummim was something that was said to be eliminating from the chest plate or from the breastplate itself, but obviously it was another aspect altogether, because the word Urim itself means light. The word Thummim itself means perfection. So when you read, for instance, about the portion in Deuteronomy 33 about the tribe of Levi, and it says, Thy Thummim and thy Urim be with thy Holy One. That right there shows you that the Urim and Thummim, though it emulated on human eyes from the aspect of the Koshen, which is the chest plate, it actually came from another source. So this is hopefully that answered the question in that particular regard. All right. So this is something to point out for edification purposes. Let's go on, if we will. Exodus chapter 28. We're going to go to verse 35. Pardon me, verse 31. All right. And it says the following. Yes, Exodus chapter. See, I messed up because I was looking at numbers and saying Exodus. All right, let's get back in focus. Exodus chapter 28, verse 31. All right, and it says the following. And thou shalt make the robe of the ephod olive blue, and it shall have a hole in the head of the in the midst thereof. It shall be, pardon me, it shall have a binding of woven work round about the whole of it, as it were the whole of a coat of a male, that it be not rent. And upon the skirts of it, thou shalt make pomegranates of blue, and of purple, and of scarlet, round about the skirts thereof, and bells of gold between them round about. A bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, upon the skirts of the robe round about. And it shall be unto Aaron to minister. The sound thereof shall be heard when he goeth in unto the holy place before Yah, and when he cometh out, that he die not. So this is something we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. All right? The bell and the pomegranate, the bell and the pomegranate. The word for pomegranate is rimon, and the word for bell is pa'amon. All right, so I just want that to be noted for reason and purposes. Okay, let's go on. It says it goes all the way around, so when the high priest will be walking, they'll be able to hear it. All right, so if they don't hear it for a while, heaven forbid, then they'll realize that someone has deceased. All right, Exodus 28, verse 36 to verse 43, so we can gain understanding for edification purposes. All right. And thou shalt make a plate of pure gold, and engrave upon it like the engravings of a signet, holy to Yah. And thou shalt put on it a thread of blue, and it shall be upon the mitre, some say mitri, all right, upon the forefront of the mitre it shall be. And Aaron shall bear the iniquity committed in the holy things, which the children of Israel shall hallow, even in all their holy gifts. And it shall be always upon his forehead, and they shall be accepted before Yah. And thou shalt weave the tunic in checker work. And it says of fine linen, and thou shalt make a mitre of fine linen, and thou shalt make a girdle, the work of the weaver in colors. And for Aaron's sons, thou shalt make tunics, and thou shalt make for them girdles, and head ties thou shalt make for them, for splendor and for beauty. And thou shalt put them upon Aaron thy brother, and upon his sons with him. And thou shalt anoint them, and consecrate them, and sanctify them, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt make them linen breeches to cover the flesh of their nakedness. From the loins even unto the thighs they shall reach. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon the sons when they go in unto the tent of meeting, or when they come near unto the altar to minister in the holy place, that they may that they bear not iniquity and die. It shall be a statute forever unto them and unto his seed after him. So, brothers and sisters, this is something we want to sit there and point out for edification purposes. When it says the golden part there, it says Kwadosh Layah, holy to the Most High. All right, that was to go on the forehead of said person. The meat tree, all right, is said in Hebrew as mitznefet. The word mitznefet comes from the word zanaf. The word zanaf means to tie or to bind. So it's a tie that they put on there. It's something that they binded upon there. All right. So now, when you're looking at the right-hand side, brothers and sisters, this is a replica of how the priest's garment will look basically in full, with the breastplate, the koshen, as somebody mentioned inside of the comment section, and the aspect of the bell and the pomegranate on the bottom of it, and so forth. Now, brothers and sisters, there's a couple of points we want to make out concerning this kind of matter. The matter of breeches and anointed. The linen breeches, miknasei bad. You read that in Exodus chapter 28, verse 40 and 41. The closest thing to pants in Israel, it was worn by males. Thou shalt anoint, meaning thou shalt anoint them. U mashakta otam. This means that the priests were anointed in Israel. Anointed, generally is said as Messiah. So the priests were Messiahs. Leviticus chapter 4, verse 3, if we will. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 4, verse 3, so we can gain understanding for edification purposes. And it says, if the anointed priest shall sin, so as to bring guilt on the people, then let him offer his sin when she hath sinned a young bullock without blemish unto Yah for a sin offering. Brothers and sisters, that's talking about for a sin done in error. So if there's the anointed priest, that means if he's anointed, that means Mashak. He is a Mashiach. So being a Messiah doesn't mean that you're sinless. Because some people think that Messiah is to be worshipped, and that's not in the house of Israel. You understand? So the anointing in the house of Israel was a triple aspect. The priests, the kings, as well as many prophets were anointed. Elisha was anointed. Isaiah was anointed. They were prophets. You had the sons of Aaron. They were anointed. You had Saul. You had David. You had Solomon. You had Jehu. Those were kings of Israel that were anointed. So these are things we want to talk about for edification purposes. Okay? So it then goes on to say, and consecrate them. Umelata et yadam, literally meaning, and you shall fill their hand. Fill their hands with what is part of the homework that I'm asking the people. Because when it says here, and consecrate them, the Hebrew says there, umelata et yadam, which literally means, and fill their hands. So that's the homework for those who are interested. I'm asking, what were their hands filled with? All right. So this is something we want to talk about for edification purposes. Okay. Brothers and sisters, we're going to go on to this portion right here, Exodus chapter 30, verse 1, all right, for edification purposes. And it says this, and thou shalt make an altar to burn incense thereupon. Of acacia wood thou shalt make it. A cubit shall be the length thereof, and a cubit the breadth thereof. 4 square it shall be, and 2 cubits shall be the height thereof. The horns thereof shall be of one piece with it. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold. The top thereof and the sides thereof round about, and the horns thereof thou shalt make unto it a crown of gold round about. And 2 golden rings shalt thou make of it under the crown thereof, upon the 2 ribs thereof, upon the 2 sides of it shalt thou make them, and they shall be for plates, places of staves wherewith to bear it. And thou shalt make the staves of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put it before the veil, that is by the ark of the covenant, the ark of the testimony, before the ark cover that is over the testimony, where I will meet with thee. And Aaron shall burn thereon incense of sweet spices every morning when he dresseth the lamps. He shall burn it. And when Aaron lighteth the lamps at dusk, he shall burn it, a perpetual incense before Yah throughout your generations. And it says, ye shall offer no strange incense thereon, no burnt offering, no meal offering, and ye shall pour no drink offering thereon. And Aaron shall make atonement upon the horns of it once in a year. With the blood of the sin offering of atonement once in a year shall he make atonement for it throughout your generations. It is most holy unto Yah. So, brothers and sisters, in this particular regard, we're talking about the aspect of the children of Yisrael having an order and an organization. What we just read here is called the altar of incense. And I want to emphasize that the altar of incense is different than the burnt offering. And that's why I said, pay attention to verse 9, where it says, you shall offer no strange incense thereon, nor burnt offering. So the burnt offering, and when you have what is referred to as the altar of burnt offering, is different than the altar of incense. There's are two different altars. The altar of incense and the altar of burnt offering are two different altars. All right. So the length is 18 inches, the breadth is 18 inches. The horns of it were made from the same piece of material, all of acacia wood, and then it was overlaid with gold. All right. The altar of burnt offering, on the other hand, was made of brass. Says, pay attention to verse 9, then I say shalom. So this is something we wanted to point out for edification purposes. Brothers and sisters, giving due respect unto Yah, creator, the maker of heaven and earth. This has been a presentation being brought to you from Shema Yisrael, congregation located in Brooklyn, New York. We say shalom. Thus ends the portion called Terumah-Tetzaweh. It was very detailed. I'm open to constructive criticism. And remember, let's try to do an assignment and find out when it says, and consecrate them. It says in the Hebrew, literally, and fill their hand. What were their hands filled with? Shalom Lakem.